Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Criminal Minds Season 2, Episode 9, The Last Word. The episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So this episode begins with a brief introduction of Emily Prentice as a character. She arrives at the BAU, introduces herself to Aaron. Turns out they've met before when she was younger, and off to college because he worked with her mother, who was an ambassador. And she gives him the paperwork showing that she's meant to be joining the BAU team. However, he is unaware of this fact and had never approved the transfer, and so he basically dismisses her before heading to the team, where we learn that the case for this episode is that there are two killers with their own distinctive styles killing in the same city, and one of them targets middle-aged, middle-class women who are brunette, it looks like, and he basically buries the bodies way out in the, sorry, let me start again. He kills quickly, and then he hides the bodies way deep in the woods where he can revisit them, and he brushes their hair, puts lipstick on them, and gets something from that ritual. The other killer targets prostitutes in a poorer side of town and has arguably a larger kill count, but because he's targeting those that fly under the radar, he also is flying under the radar. And these two communicate to each other, but the Hollow Man, who is the one who kills prostitutes, becomes jealous of the Mill Creek Killer, who is the one who hunts the middle-aged moms, or just middle-aged women. I don't think the fact that they're a mom matters. One of them was, though. Anyways, the point is, he becomes jealous, and so he decides on his next kill to send a letter to a news reporter, basically introducing himself and taking credit for his kills, which had previously been thought to be unconnected. This is what causes the BAU to be called in, because not only is there one serial killer, there's two. They come in to investigate. They investigate both crimes and eventually discover that the two killers have actually been in contact through the newspapers. So Reed basically puts in a fake ad mimicking the style of one of the killers to lure the Mill Creek Killer into a gifted body, because the Hollow Man had caused his previous kill to be found before he could revisit it. However, this of course was a trap. He gets brought in. The Hollow Man, they still are refusing to give him much credit. The only reason the news even knows about him is because his second attempt at getting attention, he goes to all of the news outlets and is credited with helping the FBI find the Mill Creek Killer, but they still don't want to report on his kills because they're trying to draw him out, and he basically has a bit of a breakdown and decides to go ahead and actively attack the FBI area, giving himself away, basically turning himself in so that he can meet the Mill Creek Killer and accuse him of telling the police to call him an unrefined, unelegant killer, and it bothered him so much he actually turned himself in, which I thought was hilarious. And then, of course, he's arrested too, so they got both of them. And on the plane ride home, they show the news report for the next day where it's going to remember the victims, but once again, not going to give the Hollow Man the attention that he so much wanted. And then when they return to the office, Erin finds Prentice is already there, and she had heard through the grapevine at the FBI that they were returning, and so she waited for him in his office. He then tells her the BAU is not a game, and it's not something that, you can just join because you feel like it. But she then profiles a serial killer accurately, and this leads him to being willing to give her a chance, though he does still say he has to look into it, but does tell her she can go to facilities to get a desk. So it would seem that she has now been allowed onto the team, at least provisionally, and that is where this episode ends. Alright, so now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is time to rank the episode first on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So, to start off with, we have our single episode supporting character introductions. So their main contact at the police station, or not police station, the field office in this town, was Agent James Sheridan, and he's the one who took them through the case and guided them to all the crime scenes and the evidence, etc. Then we had our two serial killers, the Hollow Man and the Mill Creek Killer. Neither one was given an actual name, but then in the context of this episode, neither of them really needed one. And then we had Jim Mayers, who is a news reporter who had been sent the letter by the Hollow Man initially. He's a contact with the FBI. They give him direction not to print it, not to give him attention. He keeps coming back because he feels guilty about the fact that after he doesn't print the letter, the Hollow Man goes ahead and kills 2 more prostitutes at the same time, and feels kind of responsible for that. But Jennifer assures him that there's no evidence that he would have kept killing anyways. He also gets a second letter from the Hollow Man leading him to the body of Meredith Dale, which basically ruins their sting operation, which they find out he was also sent there by the Hollow Man. Either way, he comes back frequently throughout the episode, and therefore he is worth 1 point, and that brings us to 4 points for 4 characters. We then have our multi-season main character introduction, which is Emily Prentice, and while she's not part of the case, she is seen at the beginning and the end of the episode, and at the end of the episode is when she is officially welcomed onto the team, sort of provisionally. So this does count as her introduction episode, so that is also worth 4 points, which brings us up to 8 points total for the positive side of things. Negative was that it was only semi-memorable. So I remembered the killers communicated through the newspaper. I remembered that it was Emily's sort of introduction episode. But as to like what the characters look like or the overall storyline and how they got to the end, capture, arrest of the characters, I did not really remember any of those aspects, which is why, because I could remember some of it but not all of it, it is semi-memorable, which takes 2 points and ultimately leaves us with a 6 out of 10. And that then brings our mostly objective ranking to in first, North Momon, The Fisher King 2, Aftermath, Empty Planet, The Perfect Storm, The Boogeyman. This episode comes in 7th, The Last Word, followed by P911, and in last place so far is Psychodrama. My personal ranking for this episode. I did enjoy this episode. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought that it was interesting how they had to like they were trying to find 2 killers at the same time, creating 2 separate profiles, how the profiles seemed to be in like opposite categories and completely opposite to each other, how they then found out that they were actually originally mentor and student, like how the Hollow Man initially reached out to the Mill Creek Killer, treated him like a mentor, but then became jealous, which is why because he wasn't getting recognition even though they were both killing and he was killing more. And then all of the like playing them against each other, starting with the Hollow Man trying to get the Mill Creek Killer caught before they then play them against each other to catch the Mill Creek Killer. Then the Hollow Man turning himself in because he's so butthurt that he's not getting attention, that he just basically ruins his entire criminal career by turning himself in. I found that amusing. I thought that was like, he was so easily provoked into it. I just thought, obviously they didn't want this to go into 2 episodes, but basically from our perspective, because we're with the team, we know that there was hardly any episode evidence for the Hollow Man. They didn't really have a profile for him very much. They didn't have any like leads on who he might be. They were basically in the dark. Had he just let the Mill Creek Killer be caught and continued on his way, he probably would have continued to get away with it for probably a little bit of time at least. I mean, they were actively investigating, so he probably would have been caught eventually, but it probably would have taken them a little bit of time because they didn't really have many leads at this point. Um, and instead he just turns himself in and also gets his co-killer caught on purpose because he was jealous. I thought that killer, the Hollow Man, is just so petty. And it did give me a certain level of amusement just how petty he was. Um, Also, this is Emily Prentice's first appearance. And I always think this in these first few seasons, but the actress who played Elle and the actress who plays Emily, they look very similar. They definitely look different, but they look similar enough that sometimes I get them mixed up. And I was happy that this was her premiere episode, but I was a little disappointed that she wasn't on the team. And frankly speaking, she experienced my worst nightmare, which is that you go to a new job that you feel that you've been hired for, you have all the paperwork, and there's just always, until that first day is over, that niggling fear in the back of your head that there was a mistake somewhere, they're not going to know that you're supposed to come in. And I get a lot of anxiety when I start a new job over that. And she actually had that happen where she comes in expecting everything to be settled, that she has a new job, and then is told, I've heard nothing about this. I think you've been misinformed. See ya. And honestly, I vicariously mortified. Um, but again, I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was engaging. I thought it was entertaining. And that is why I decided to ultimately give it an 8 out of 10, which brings the personal ranking list to In First, North Momon, Aftermath, The Boogeyman, Psychodrama. This episode, The Last Word, is in 5th place, followed by The Fisher King 2, Empty Planet, The Perfect Storm, and then P911 is currently my least favorite of the season. And that now brings me to the series ranking. Season 1, of course, is in 1st place on both lists. Then we have Season 2 with 58 out of 230 on the mostly objective ranking list, and on the personal ranking list, it is at 72 out of 230. But with that, we have rewatched and ranked Criminal Minds Season 2, Episode 9, The Last Word. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.